with Jonathan and InvestInU.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, I'm Jonathan Ainsey. Let me start by asking you, who has a plan to live healthily to 100? Okay, that's more than I normally get, because most don't. However, we have many living far longer than expected in today's world. So essentially we live in this age of longevity. However, most are longevity illiterate and driven by fear and frailty with low self-expectations. That then translates into startling statistics like this. Pre-lockdowns, 64 million retirees in the US, averaging 47 hours TV a week. So that's more than a quarter of every day. It also translates into 12.4 years of chronic illness. So that said, there's a lot of movement going on in the whole aging world. Andrew Scott, who is a co-author of the book, The 100-Year Life, has just released his latest book, The Longevity Imperative. And in that, he is suggesting that A, we need to get ready for a fundamental change in what it means to be human. Approached differently, our longer lifespans could be the greatest gift humanity has ever been given. However, only 2.5% of total health expenditure in high-income countries is spent on prevention rather than intervention. Add into that people are not planning far enough in advance to prevent later decades being plagued by ill health, loneliness, and poverty. So what are we going to do about this? For the last 6 years, I've been working in this realm. So most people, I think, their approach to aging is limited. We may have others around us that we see doing a better job at how we're aging, but then we get into this uncharted territory, both with longevity risk, but for me, more interestingly, longevity opportunity. And longevity opportunity equals flourishing longevity. And that's the focus of what we've created, are 2 programs. The first is a B2B program, the Flourishing Longevity Advisor. There are 3 elements to it. The first is the Flourishing Longevity Workshop, which we've been conducting for the last 6 years, either as a client education or team training event to help people see aging as an opportunity, not just something to get through. There is then a 3-month one-on-one white glove training program, far better than I could ever have anticipated or expected, as one participant commented. And then there's also a 6-module self-study training to develop expertise by practicing on themselves, answering honest questions and assessments. So the Flourishing Longevity Advisor is a professional trained to help clients of all ages shift their mindsets from fear and frailty to opportunity and promise within the context of living far longer than, many now living far longer than expected. Who can be a Flourishing Longevity Advisor? This work was developed in the financial services world, so financial planners, retirement planners, insurance agents, but more recently we've been expanding to look towards HR managers, corporate leaders, coaches, counselors, student leaders. This conversation is as impactful for 20-year-olds as it is for 70 or 80-year-olds. There is then the second program, the B2C, the Flourishing Longevity Program, which utilizes the Flourishing Longevity Workshop, as in the other program. That is unlocking your bigger view on life, but then supported by the Natural Essence Living Younger, Longer with Purpose and Passion workshop, and then supported by the InvestInU platform, which is one financial planner at Raymond James who used it for a year, commented, I could see all 8,000 Raymond James advisors using InvestInU with their clients. So in recent times, I actually took the state director of AARP through the workshop, the Flourishing Longevity Workshop. He then wrote to the Florida Council on Aging Executive Committee and had this to say, Jonathan's developed a program that helps financial planners and their clients shift their mindset about aging from ones of fear and frailty to ones of opportunity and promise. I think his strategy of combating ageism at the individual level by enlightening and inspiring advisors like financial planners is one that will be of interest to the Florida Council of Aging. I'm actually going to be their keynote speaker now for their annual conference in August. So the impact of flourishing longevity, combating ageism, increasing productivity, reducing chronic illness, lowering medical costs, combating mental illness for all age groups, increased joy and satisfaction in our daily lives, And then increasing engagement at work. I think Gallup says only that 67% of employees in the US are not engaged in their work. So the competitive advantage we have is kind of interesting. There's lots of work going on in the gerontology field and longevity. MIT Age Lab, Stanford School of Longevity, the Milken Institute for Aging, for example. But as one wholesaler said, Jonathan is executing where the rest of us are talking. We're actually creating with the mindset shifts that the workshop creates. We have data that none of these folks or institutions have. So the go-to-market to date has been primarily in the financial services world, but in more, oh, hang on, I've lost, okay, that bit should be over there. So in more recent times, we did the workshop with 58 managers here in Orlando with Goshen, the International Coaching Federation, and actually doing it with a class of 20-year-olds at Stonehill College, and it's a lot of fun talking to 20-year-olds about living to 120, because no one else is. So, why am I here? I need your help, please. We've got a wonderful couple of products. It's been a lot of stop-start, and I need help getting this message out. So with that, thank you.
Right, and time for all right. Well, first, thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question to start us off with, and it's about your business and your business model. How do you make money?
So the primary way, think of the B2B, which is the training. So the educational workshops, either doing that with financial advisors. So for instance, I did a few weeks ago with an Equitable advisor. But as a result of that, I'm actually going to be doing the workshop with the Seminole Chamber of Commerce next week, and then the Florida Executive Women's Group. So charging for the workshops, but then also charging for the training. So the workshops, depending on who's doing what. So there is a pro bono element to this. Financial services obviously has the deeper pocket, so $5,000 for them, and then depending on where that's going with you know, next week I'm just doing it pro bono in the hope that there'll be, you know, institutions there. The self-study is $1,000, and then the one-on-one training. I haven't figured out on the B2C side of the equation. I've been throwing the program up on Eventbrite. I am not the world's expert on Eventbrite, so even when I search for it, I don't find it. So consequently, no one else has. So anyway, still figuring on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say that was just very, very impressive. I'm really excited about the opportunity. And I would like to talk to you afterwards about doing sales funnel, where you have different tiers. You have your introductory, you have your icebreaker, your introductory, and then you have other tiers that they can level up to, which obviously would have a higher cost.
Okay. What's your question?
My question is, what kind of sales and marketing, you think you mentioned your B2C is not really in place yet.
Correct. So the age-old thing, if you can't do it, teach. I've been teaching sales and marketing for 20 years, but for the last 6 years, as one of my former colleagues at Merrill said, you're going to be a 6-year overnight success. So, you know, it's cracking that nut.
Well,
I get the principle. Okay, thank you. I enjoy
Next.
that. Thank you.
So, statement and question. So you talked through Merrill Lynch to individual. That is quite a large gap from business to consumer to actually. Who's your ideal client?
The ideal client is the individual, because how we're each aging, and you saw the lack of hands going up. So
wait, let me rephrase. Who is your ideal buyer? Because it's kind of
well, that's two different things. So ultimately, InvestInU is a $10 a month subscription, and the vision and mission on that is, what does the world look like if 500 million people can meaningfully answer the question, how do you invest in you? So I presented on that 5 years ago here. So InvestInU is still there. I now have that 8,000 advisor comment coming back, but ultimately that for me is where the difference will be made, is the leverage through or the utilization of InvestInU.
I'm happy to help you tweak that marketing target.
I would think have everything funnel through you, and then get a percentage of all the entities you work with, like the financial planners, et cetera, et cetera.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Well, for instance, if you have an organization, you're promoting something and people come to you, well, you direct them to the financial planner or the whatever you're going, and you make an arrangement with the financial planner or whatever entity to get a percentage of the business that's developed that came from you.
Yeah, that's the idea with the Flourishing Longevity Advisor, creating a designation so that you can then list here are the advisors, and the neat thing with that is not limited to financial services. Like with the Florida Council on Aging, those in healthcare, HR, there's so many opportunities there with creating that designation.
And then Barry?
Sounds to me like this would be ideal for affiliate marketing, where you talk about a service, and then someone clicks on it and buys it, and you get a piece of that revenue from, like, say for like Merrill Lynch or somebody, that you push for their business, and someone clicks on it because they've looked at your stuff, and you would get a cut of that.
You're right, and in the background, the $10 a month for InvestInU, that will enhance and increase the value of whatever they're doing by virtue of what they're up to.
Right.
So those things are sitting there. It's getting it into the market that I've struggled with. It's being able to tell the story.
Barry?
Anything with the hospitality industry? Have you looked into?
Where are you going with that, Phil? Can you tell me more?
Major hotel companies like Marriott, like Hyatt, because there's very high stress environments in the service. Starting with eating the right food, etc. Because we the ones that work in the industry, not necessarily doing those kind of things. Might just come in very handy by explaining them here's the way to get there.
Yeah, well, thank you. And yes, is the answer to your question. Julia's question, well, okay, who's your, again, find your brand, find your ideal client. The problem is, it's yes to all the above.
We all keep running, like, without stopping and thinking, keep running and running
Yes.
and running.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're doing it with students 1 minute, 20-year-olds,
Yeah.
and now over here, look at the hotel side. This thing, well, I mean, again, none of us are really aging very well.
I want to go to Will, and then so.
You mentioned briefly how these older individuals are affected financially, as well as the general health effects. How are you planning to reach out to customers that are already affected, right, financially, are already having these health problems, already are just sitting there they can't get out of bed, maybe they're just getting like my dad, for example, he's basically just on government money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you reach out to these people that maybe not can afford $10 a month right now?
Well, I'll tell you more after August, because there's the Florida Council on Aging, and there are going to be people I'm talking to who are in the palliative care, for instance. I mean, there's a limit to what you can
No,
do.
absolutely, yeah.
But ultimately, there's amazing stuff out there, the whole mind-body connection, and I think a lot of us, no matter what we think, what ails us, I've seen some incredible stories out there, and it's helping people get access to that. There's Magic Pill, for instance, a film. At the start of that, the lady's spending $1,000 a month on insulin. At the end of filming, she's spending $0. Why? She changed her diet. So it's just, again, we've got it all structured within the workshop to help people take steps for themselves, because most of us aren't being educated on, oh, yes, I can do this. It's pop the pills, it's look for the instant gratification solution, rather than take some of the smaller steps we could benefit from for ourselves. So the educational part, that workshop, I've done it in the villages. If you go to the villages and move the dial with an 80-year-old, yeah.
My question is kind of related to that, what you just said there too. Do you have like analytics that describes the benefit? Like, is it reduced health costs? So when you go into an employer, can you tell them, hey, you're going to reduce your insurance costs by 10, 15% potentially?
At some point, I want to be able to say yes, because again, with the mindset shift we're creating, USA Today 3 years ago did an article on, are you angry at your parents for aging? And the idea being how many people are involved in caregiving especially for family members. And the whole idea of the article was this is only going to get worse. You know, here we are in peak 65 this year, more Americans turning 65 than ever before. But when I read that article, I looked at that and said to myself, well, okay, what is my responsibility, A, to my children, my 3 adult children, but also to my society on how I'm choosing to age, so making better decisions for myself. So do I have the data now? No, but we're already getting different data from some of the other institutions just by virtue of the workshop and the responses we get. They're very interactive, the workshops.
So, by the way, market data is much more powerful than product data. If you back the hearse up to the north market data, then you can say anything you want to. But, and now I forgot my point.
That's a good point, though. That's a good point.
Gosh.
You should invest in
It has to
it.
do with storytelling.
You need to invest in the investment.
Oh, what is your product? So one of the challenges that people have, I'm a storyteller, but when you go to your website, and what is your system? What is your product? And then, because it could be education, yes, different things, but you're going to have to create a system that people can just grasp immediately. It takes about 7 seconds to have somebody grasp it. And so name it, brand it. It needs to tell a story in the name. It has to be so super simple. And then don't worry about, well, what are you doing to value that you're going to give me that is 3 bullet points, 3 to 5 words each. Super clear. Okay, it can't be any more than that because I'm not going to remember. Because remember, I have the attention span of a squirrel, and everybody else is right along there with me.
And he just forgot what he was going to say.
Yeah. So you have 1.7 seconds on a screen. People scroll 300 feet a day, a football field a day, and they stay on a screen for 1.7 seconds. And so you've got to get your message, and whether it's on a phone screen, 70% of all internet is done on the phone, whether it's done on a phone screen or whether it's done anywhere else, you've got to have it so simple. Your product, which doesn't matter if it's service product, whatever it is, it's still a product. And so what is that? Do you have that?
That's the conundrum. That's what I need the help with. You know, again, I get it, I teach it, but apply it to me, the question mark, yeah. But again, all day long, if anyone can find that for me.
It's not hard.
I know it well. You said,
I've got an AI
all right.
thing.
We're going to wrap this up with Michael and then Rupert.
How much have you looked into podcasts?
I've done podcasts where I've been on them. I want to do more. I mean, again, I'm wearing all hats, so it's shiny. I've just finished writing the book, you know, so, or the workbook. So, which shiny object do I want to chase? But podcast is definitely something. You know, apparently this British accent works quite well. So,
Well, that too. But also, there's a ton of self-help podcasts, and there are people who listen religiously, but they don't have the platform behind it.
So following up on what Rod was saying, your demographic is primarily older.
No.
Well, the thing is if you're trying to appeal to everybody, you're going to get nobody.
Yep.
Okay. You need to focus on one particular demographics, and that will help you achieve revenues and profitability quicker. Okay. My point though is that going off when he says, you need to have a value statement, something, you know, is it making their life better, saving them time, or saving them money? And if you can tell a story, say, this is Joe, and he's such age, and he's spending 47 hours a week in front of the TV, and blah, 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 and all that. And then he comes to our program, and he goes through like a case study, and this is the value that you get from it, you know. So the value I would assume is going to be quality of life and a longer time with it. Okay, but we can talk afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, thank you. Yes.
Great, Jonathan. Thank you. And
can I just finish with this?
Please.
So this is more motivational. I'm not a poet, but I wrote this over 10 years ago in less than 5 minutes because That was the universe flowing. Reach down deep, you'll always find a whole new world within your mind, for what you truly can achieve is limited only by what you believe. The world of if is an amazing place, comprised entirely of endless space. So journey through your inner being and gift yourself what you are seeing. So often we only seem to survive when our heart is yearning for us to thrive, but breaking those barriers of our own creation will lead to our imagination.
Very nice.
Okay, very quickly. They said you wrote that in 5 minutes. My haiku took me, my assistant, going back and forth 10 minutes. So. All right. So Jonathan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we get started with our next presentation, Julia?
Yes. So if you have not seen the most recent edition of the Orlando Business Journal, I brought it with me. I'm going to leave it here. Okay. There's a spotlight in here around innovation and growth. The entire article is about that. Lists the top technology companies, has the 2024 Fire Award winners, and also has a breakout of the Inno Madness group. So it has a lot of interesting in here about Central Florida community innovation. And so maybe we'll get some pitch for us here.
Great. Thank you very much for. I did not check out the Business Journal this week, but that is a wealth of local community business knowledge. So if you're not a subscriber, I would recommend it. I need to get my subscription back up to par, but yeah, right. So go.
Thank you.
And tell us about Gaya Wellness.
There's also a white paper bag going around. It's intentional, so if you want, grab something out of it. My way to promote. Sorry, it's not there. It's,
I just wanted to know before I put my hand in.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Shweta Patel. I am a board certified OBGYN. I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran and the founder of Gaya Wellness.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I'd like to invite you to see how my company is already changing the landscape for women's healthcare. The bottom line up front is that women's healthcare sucks, especially in-person care. We have a hard time getting an appointment. If we do get an appointment, after worrying about childcare, taking time off from work, traveling, finding the actual doctor with appointment availability, then the appointments are actually very disjointed. In other words, you get the care you need from one doctor, but then you end up being told to go to 5 other doctors to get the rest of the care that you need. And it's very cookie cutter in its approach, not very personalized. The pandemic did help women's healthcare become accepted into, or be accepted with digital health. So that was great because we were now able to embrace that part, but access improved, convenience improved. However, now we have multiple competitors that are all hyper-focused on certain areas of women's healthcare, which basically just created another problem while we're trying to fix the original one, kind of like cable and streaming. This is why Gaya Wellness was created. It is an all-in-one virtual women's healthcare platform, which makes it easy for women to access, and women in any stage of their life, to access concierge level care anytime, anywhere. And that can be puberty to menopause, everything in between and everything beyond. And that makes up a pretty large demographic. I mean, actually, if you were to take just 5% of our potential customer demographic, that would be 6.5 million women in this country alone. And not to mention, the global women's digital health market is actually expected to surpass $50 billion in 2025. Yeah, not an unmotivating stat. So, but you're probably wondering, wait a second, especially for the gentleman, like how is virtual women's healthcare even possible? I mean, what about the, you know? First of all, we don't need this physician for every one of our health concerns. And secondly, if we do need in-person care, Gaya Wellness has a solution for that as well. In fact, in addition to being fully integrative platform with multiple services available, we also have a white glove concierge care coordination service, which means that if you do need in-person care, we are going to streamline your experience and help you find that in-person care, transfer records, etc. So make it really efficient, less frustrating, and convenient for you. We also have a digital front door, which means women can access care 24/7 on our platform. What gives us our competitive advantage in the market is that, well, first, we have multiple revenue streams built into our business model. It makes us really agile to our market response. It also makes us weather recessions a lot better than our competitors. And then going back to the concierge level care and white glove service of care coordination, I bring that back to your attention because what we do is we collaborate with existing practices in the community. We don't compete with them. And why that's important is because of two things. One, it's a self-sustaining relationship, right? We take the visits or patients that they don't really have time for off their hands. We make it easier for those women to access care and more convenient. In return, we are doing all of the legwork that makes a patient able to then be ready for just a high-value visit like surgery or a procedure, and we send them back to these practices. So that helps us continue to grow and help each other grow. But then additionally, our expansion isn't limited to the completion of brick and mortar locations, meaning we can and actually will be national by the end of this year because we're not waiting to build anything. We're just virtual. Our business model, our business model should have had a better animation stream, but it doesn't. Oh, it does. Our business model is currently cash-based, but we're also going to be accepting insurance. Really? Okay, we're going to be accepting insurance. We're also going to be, we're primarily direct-to-consumer, but we also have a B2B service line that we'll be offering. So we'll be accepting, or we'll be offering employer health plans by the end of this year. So far, our go-to-market strategy was to leverage my 34787 area of Winter Garden, where I used to practice, to establish product market fit and fine-tune our MVP at a very low budget. And then in the process, we were able to launch in June of 2022, we're in market, we're generating revenue. We were able to complete 700 visits. We're also increasing our user base 300% and featured in multiple news articles and outlets. Moving forward, a lot of things. And this is my team. It's as diverse and inclusive as the women we serve. And ultimately, this is what sets us apart in that the pandemic did, again, help accelerate women's health and bring it into the digital health era. Gaya Wellness is leveraging that opportunity to make access to equitable and impactful care for women everywhere and whenever they need it. Apologize for the little run in the end, but this is our QR code for if you have any questions and want to contact me. And thank you so much for your time.
Go back to that club that you kind of ran through because there's some important information in there. I didn't mean to rush you.
No. I just looked at like 5 minutes. Oh, 53 seconds. Okay.
Really quickly, go.
Yes. So this is our timeline. By the summer, we're going to be expanding our healthcare provider team, expanding our service market area, as well as launching our B2B product, which will be employer health plans. By the end of this year, we will be accepting insurance wherever we are. We expect to be national. And we'll have our maternity services launched. And then there's more, but as I said, there's multiple things. Yes?
Question, a couple things. Talking about insurance, how are you going about getting your credentialing done? Do you have someone to help you with that? That's the biggest challenge with healthcare.
Yes.
I'm working with other people in concierge services. That is a huge challenge.
Sure. No, that's actually the single-handed reason why I believe that Gaya Wellness isn't even bigger already than where we are right now, because we've been cash pay. And I think that the consumer has that mind block that, oh, if you're not accepting insurance, I can't use you. Even if the pricing may not be an issue, our single visit is $99. We pay more than that in manicures and pedicures. So I think that it's not the price point, it's just the tendency of how we see it.
Thank you. Insurance coverage. I have two more questions, two more things. Secondly, where is your physical? Medical records at a physical office, or do you have a remote office?
So all of our providers work remotely.
Okay. Home office, is that at your home or is that? Well, I'll talk to you more about that.
No,
Next question.
my home office is my home.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
One more question. Age range. Who is most apt to be useful for this type? Are we talking about elderly people, young people?
So the ones who have been most responsive are in the demographic of 35 to 45.
Okay. You also work with seniors.
There's no age limit to who we will see, because if they need our services, there's no.
Thank you for the presentation. Understanding is the telemedical app or something.
So this is not an app yet. In fact, I actually didn't want to make it an app because how many people are tired of downloading apps? They have apps for everything. So we just wanted to make it a very user-friendly web browser-based platform. It's a platform.
I'm on piggybacking on that, a little kind of feedback on the presentation. Very much throughout your presentation, your visuals were a phone and things like that, which has the connotation of an app. So kind of a mixed message that you've got going on there. So maybe consider some of how you're marketing your actual product and the visuals that you're using to display that, to make that very clear that this is not an app, this is a web-based or an,
No, that's useful. Thank you.
direct one-to-one.
Doctor, thank you for your service. So it sounds like you partner with brick and mortar practices all over the country.
We will be all over the country, currently just in the Winter Garden area.
Are you looking for like introductions to certain type of providers, and what would that be?
Primarily primary care and then OBGYNs. Eventually, the vision would be that we are also establishing these kinds of relationships with specialists that women would need.
Like alternative type?
So we're already utilizing like acupuncture, chiropractic, as well as Eastern medicine, Ayurveda, in our current integrative practice style. And so eventually on a larger scale, it won't be feasible for one provider to do all that. In terms of, we won't have a provider practicing integrative medicine, we'll have a platform with multiple providers delivering an integrative experience.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent, yeah. So coming from the queer community, I don't know if you know this, but every trans person is their own endocrinologist. Literally, right? I'm my own nurse, I'm my own endocrinologist because I go to my doctor and they're like, what the fuck are you, right? Yeah. And so what are you doing to reach out? Because like you've got a ton of customers that are just ready to jump on what
I hear about them.
Yeah, so.
And I'm like, I need my in.
No, well, I'm telling you right now, so there's a ton of queer centers in the city that would be like ready to just be like, yes, we'll jump on this.
Well, and that actually, one of the connections I made at my very first Orlandopreneur event, it was a individual that is going to help me with that. But I'm not by any means saying like that I don't need that help. One of the things that we realized is that I need to do a whole separate marketing campaign targeted specifically for that, because the fact that it is a very personalized and really currently very prohibitive area, and people are not feeling invited, included, comfortable approaching doctors for this. That individual had an appointment coming up and they didn't even know what to expect.
Exactly.
They're like, am I going to be examined? And it's like, exactly, you don't need to be examined. You definitely shouldn't be worried about that. It can be understandable, like if a cis woman is thinking, I don't want a pelvic exam, but if we're not even giving a clear message about what to expect in a physical exam for a transgender, that's unnecessarily scary. And so I think that this is obvious. We're not doing anything invasive because we haven't gotten the digital technology yet to do a pap smear through the screen.
Right.
So.
Or an Apple Watch.
You were first, yeah.
Okay. Your pediatric launch, is that gonna be a huge, social media building up for the birthday of the big launch? I think that.
Oh, the maternity launch, yeah,
Yeah.
so, can you repeat your question?
A birthday celebration for that day and build up your social media, are you?
Oh, yes, so, probably,
Yeah.
I think that since we have till the end of the year, right now, we're focused more on the actual logistics, the legalities of it, and, the part of the marketing that we're gonna be doing is we're gonna send these two little kids with like a baby Daptone monitor and like a, measuring tape and branded information, so that, word of mouth is really what then triggers that awareness that, oh yeah, I mean, I have my own monitor, you don't, like your doctor didn't give you something? And I did my visit from, the Bahamas while I was on vacation. I didn't have to worry that I couldn't access my doctor. So we will be using a lot of that convenience and the concierge quality as our marketing tactic.
I just think this is great. I have two really quick points I'm gonna make. One is, kind of off gear. How did you get the little flower inside your QR code? I have no idea how to do that.
You had to ask me the one thing that I didn't know how to answer.
Okay, I'll talk to you after that.
Yeah.
We'll figure that. But the second quick point I was gonna say is, do you have any plans in terms of your rollout with social media to do any kind of like education on these issues? Because there's a I can't remember what it's called right now. There's an Instagram channel that has like gone viral over the years, doing things like on the street, like asking guys like, what is this? What happens in a period? And they're like, and it's hilarious to see like they don't know the most basic things that you would learn in like middle school health class or science class.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Going IRL
it's really
instead of
played for
virtual.
laughs, but I feel like it really pairs well with folks who need to know.
Yeah. So thus far, our marketing has been very grassroots. I think that's the term everyone uses when they want to say poor. Right? So since this is bootstrapped, it's been predominantly a lot of outsource and then myself. I actually just did my first TikTok reel or skit the other day, and that was interesting. But I did meet with a PR firm. They're extremely expensive, but as we get ready to fundraise, we're gonna build those kinds of costs into it. But that's a great idea because we're kind of going full circle saying, we're a virtual service, but here we are coming out right at you in the real world, asking you questions like, what's a tampon?
So don't go with the PR firm. I'm with the company that does multi-millions in advertising. It's a waste of money. There's always ways to do the same thing. So you're charging $99 a visit?
For one of the visit types. That was one of the things I rushed through, but we have 3 service-based visits and 3 subscription-based programs. One of the service-based visits, the most fundamental one, it's called a women's focused visit. It's anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes and it's $99.
Because my wife, she still sees her women's doctor. It's not an OBGYN, she's a PA, I think, but out in Utah, I mean, she charges $150 for a visit. And your rate is incredibly reasonable. Now, you can prescribe hormones, everything.
Order labs, order prescriptions, order imaging.
So what is your monthly subscription?
The subscription program is for fertility, like the initial treatments and counseling for fertility, like when we do oral medications, obviously no IVF over the screen. But the other subscription is behavioral health. We're kind of softening the experience of, oh, you have a therapist, or oh, you're going to a psychiatrist. It's like, no, you're just seeing your women's health doctor and you're talking about shit. And that can be on a monthly level. It's $179 for 2 visits a month.
What? This is so, guys, my wife is 52. And this is reasonable.
Yes.
This is incredibly reasonable.
But actually, since you're, keeping me on the topic, one of the things we're going to be moving towards until, and maybe even with the insurance contracts coming through, how many of you guys know about Fabletics, the brand? So they have this model where they have a membership, and you pay a certain price for the membership, And it makes everything that you're buying on that first day on that screen suddenly drop in price. So you're like, this membership is worth it, right? And then I'll just cancel it next month. It's no big deal. But in the, right, exactly. And then suddenly I find myself buying leggings every month because I have a membership that I'm paying for anyway, so I might as well buy leggings. And it just continues the cycle of that recurrent revenue stream. So we're actually going to do that. We're going to create a Gaya membership, which makes all of the services ridiculously cheaper. And then you can still buy them if you don't want the membership full price. You can also do it with the membership, like a 60% discount. And it creates our consistent revenue. And then we also have the insurance option.
Well, and before we get to Rupert, I got just kind of on that subject. Do you are you figuring out on the because that's kind of the B2C model, and then going through the healthcare providers is a B2B more model. Have you worked out your lifetime value of a customer?
Very, very rudimentarily.
Okay.
So it's you know, I'm talking like tissue paper or napkin paper calculations, because the economic stuff, like, you know, models and studies are also very expensive. I've also done a lot of pricing based on not the customer lifetime value as much as what competitors are offering, and with the hope that right now I want to prove concept, and I know this will be something that is financially very viable on a scale. So even if it may not necessarily make full sense that it's $99 for 30 minutes, that doesn't equate to my hourly rate in the hospital. But there's no way for me to quantify the fact that I'm hanging out in my office at home with my dogs by me and wearing, you know, pajamas on the bottom while I have a nice top on the top. So all of these things are like, I'm trying to make it so that women use it, and that alone is cheaper than marketing to reduce the cost of the service, and then word of mouth will then infiltrate. And then second, we'll figure out really whether this is going to be, whether we can price it more better as we start getting more volume and more money.
One last question.
Rupert's gonna go, and then we're done.
Can I ask one question real quick?
No, please, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm gonna reiterate what we talked about a month ago, which focus helps you get to where you wanna go much faster, okay? And you are an OBGYN, go with what you know. The other thing I would add is the story part. Tell us a story that it'll help people understand what you're doing and how you're doing it and the value you provide. But the other thing, I lost my train of thought. You rubbed off on me.
Something in the front rows. Like
so collaborative marketing. For example, there's another woman in town who presented here recently, and she's been winning competitions, pushing her endometriosis testing, right? So if you partnered up with her,
Weren't you supposed to send me your contact?
you need to remind me. I've got ADHD, I can't help it. But in any case, there's those three things I would focus on.
Okay, then we'll come back up to here. All right, one final question. As the Orlando chapter of 1 Million Cups, what can we do for you? You've laid out some things and we've gotten some ideas, but is there anything else out there that?
I would say word of mouth, just sharing, and that coming from different sources and creating that kind of proof of concept, and positioning us as something that's already accepted as opposed to like brand new, you should try it. Especially the women in the group. If you guys would be so kind as to try out the service, it'll be complimentary. There will be a code that we can provide you if you email me. Or if you just remember Gaya VIP, that's pretty easy. So hashtag Gaya VIP, and it gives you a free focused visit. And same goes for if you have friends and you're like, hey, the UTI, I know a person, and it'll be applicable to them. But really, if I'm 100% honest, you know, because I've been lying all this time, is this response alone is like, I'm trying all the back years, because you know the founder thing of, oh my god, am I fake? People are gonna figure it out. This response has been mind blowing, simply because it is very valid questions, giving me a lot to take back and make sure I iron out, but as well as very supportive. So thank you. Oh, okay. By the way, the mirrors are, I call them coochie coos. They're literally what you think they are. It's marketing for, you know, taking a look down there, but I mean, you can also powder your nose with it. You don't have to.
I do that all the
Nope.
time.
Rupert, 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Atlanta Premier Monday night was fantastic. Who went? Awesome. Next month, Citrus Club. Be there or be square.
Or you know, a different shape of your choosing. Again, follow us on all the socials, say nice things about us, and
Can you go back? Sorry. Thank you.
Did they just finish revamping that, Rupert?
the Citrus Club?
Yes, they did a major renovation and they're finally up and running and they brought the Citrus Club into the 21st century.
Oh, finally, only 25 years in, you know, working on that. Okay, follow us on socials, connect with people. There's coffee shops and places to go and have lunch all over the place. These are but a few, but go out into the community. I recommend you go to someplace local. You know, Panera's nice. Some people have their office there. But go to a locally owned coffee shop or a locally owned restaurant and give your business to somebody here in the community. Yes, Eric?
Remember, if you go to a chain, 13 cents of every dollar stays in the local community. You go to a local shop, 40 cents of every dollar stays in the local community.
Even more if you give them cash.
Yes.
Just to say, Panera paid $125 million to community. I want you to know that. That's the originated idea.
I'm not saying don't go to Panera. I'm saying do go to other places as well. And next week we have Jane Tracy from the library who will be presenting to us. And we are still looking for another presenter. So if you have been coming here for a few weeks and you're thinking, you know what, I don't know if I'm gonna. Yes, you should. You absolutely should get with Josh. We'll get you through the application thing, which is mostly painless, and we'll get that to present next week. Mostly painless. Mostly. There's a little bit. Thank you all very much. We'll see everybody next week.